you guys hear me?
Yes,
Okay. How you doing?
good there.
Cecil, are you there?
Just like making music. I thought it was doing a little.
I can't hear you.
Oh,
There we go. Now that's what I wanted him was to turn the music down.
yeah. All right.
Just 1 second.
How do I pronounce your name? Devode?
I'm Drew. So it's like Drew with the V at the end. So Drew.
Drew. Okay.
Yeah.
And Jay, you are with Rentals?
Building Board of Appeals.
Okay, the Building Court of Appeals. Did you guys all get the agenda?
Yes, I did.
Yes.
Okay. How's everybody this evening?
Fine.
I'm doing well. How are you, Mayor Landry?
And Drew, you're going to have to leave at 7, right?
Actually, I can stay till 7:30.
Oh, okay. We
Yeah.
were going to have you go first.
Okay.
And then Cecil, you're going to stay on the whole time?
Yes.
Okay, because Liz and I will drop out after we go through the introduction
Okay. No worries. No problem.
or process number 4. We're going to, I guess we have to wait till number 5. The idea where you guys will have your round table without us. You can feel free to talk whatever you want. Hi, Brian. How are you?
Hello, everyone.
All right.
Hi, Susan.
Hi. So it looks like we have a confirmed president-elect as of today, about an hour ago.
Excellent.
302, I think, 306 votes.
One of those.
Progress, I guess.
Yeah, that's progress.
Drew, where are you in front of? What's your virtual background?
Oh, this is my school. I go to Archbishop Meade High School. So this was a little virtual background that I was able to quickly take a picture of to still be in the essence of that school. So this is the normal area where we eat lunch and hang out.
Boy, I lived over there on the other side of Lawrence by where that
Yep.
bridge
I
crosses
remember
over.
you told me that, like, at
Yeah,
the,
by
one of
the
our
Creek
events last
Trail
year, the
Park.
Coffee and Politics, to help build a park right across the street. Yep.
The trail, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the one who got the light so you can cross to get to the trail. But that was back in 96. So I haven't been
Wow.
on Middy's campus since then.
You should come back. We made some pretty big changes, I guess, since 1996.
That's why I didn't know where that picture was from.
Yeah, this came up around 2016, so the year before I actually came to MIDI.
And what year are you?
I'm a senior now, so my last and final year.
Have you gotten your college where you're going?
I got into one school, Baylor University. So
Baylor?
waiting for other, yeah, Baylor in Texas.
Hi,
So
Liz.
yeah, just waiting.
Great. Hi, Barton.
Hello. How are you?
Good. Hi, Liz. Hi, everybody. All right, so we got another minute. We got, I think there's 12 of us, plus Brian and Cecil.
Jay, it's been a long time
Yeah,
and we're not traveling.
that's right. But we did get to Hawaii we returned on the 5th of February.
So you got back before
we
the
got in a
shutdown.
trip just miraculously before it was too late.
I got on a cruise from San Francisco to Mexico and back on the Grand Princess the last week of January.
All right, same thing, yeah.
And the next cruise was the one that got stuck at sea for another.
My sister-in-law left on the cruise, and that week they had shut things down. She went anyways. 35 days. 14-day cruise became 35 days. They wouldn't let them port anywhere to get off. So she partied for a month. Hi,
In their own-
Tracy.
Having to stay in the room to party though?
Oh, they made a whole party out of it because they went through down over through South America and came back up, and Chile wouldn't let them off the boat, and they had to come all the way up to San Diego. But Carnival let them party the whole time. We were talking, Tracy, we were talking about when all this started in February and about going on cruises and getting
Yeah,
stuck.
now they call them Petri dishes, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. Hi, Adam.
Hello.
Yeah, well, that's what happened. They got stuck for 35 days.
I remember, yeah. It's hard to believe it was like a year ago that happened almost.
Oh, don't say that out loud.
Isn't that scary?
Yeah.
My kids
Hi,
keep reminding
Michael.
me that, Mom, we've been locked up for almost a year.
Okay, so let's see. We're missing CIC and
Yes,
oh,
Carol.
there she is. Hi, Carol. We just said we're missing CIC and you showed up right when I said that.
There you go.
Okay, so do we have Parks and Rec?
I'm Parks and Rec.
Okay, do we have the bicycle and ped?
Yes, that's me, Barton.
Okay, Barton. And Adam, you're with
Planning.
planning, and Michael.
Let's see, I'm dim here. Let me see if I can.
Preservation.
Not trying to
Historic
hide.
Preservation Board. Do we have everybody now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, we don't have our high school person, but I think he said he was going to be late.
No, Drew,
No, he's on. He's
on.
up. Drew.
I'm right here.
Oh.
Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, so I have Jay, Drew, Tracy, Adam, Michael, and Carol. The renters thing.
We don't have the renter board, the rent appeal. board.
Brian, do you know if he RSVP'd?
William, should be William Pierce. I was told he did.
And I think that's the only one missing.
Yep.
Good group.
Okay, so why don't we, does everybody know everybody? Should we go around and make introductions?
I would like introductions, please.
Okay, so I'm mayor for one more day till about 8:30 tomorrow night. I'm mayor. This is my last hurrah. I got reelected and I'll be on the council for another 4 years. Liz,
Well, I'm vice mayor for one more day.
why don't we go through Jay?
Yeah, I'm Jay Perrine. I'm on the Building Board of Appeals. And unlike a lot of yours, we don't meet regularly. We only meet when there's an appeal to the building official in town, which would mean somebody's got a permit and they sort of had a discussion with the building inspector and that didn't go too well. So they go down and appeal it in writing through the building official and pay, I don't know, $20, and then we have a hearing. I don't think
Okay.
we've met in like 2 years.
Well, here you are
Which means
now.
everything's good.
Yeah. Drew?
Hi, I'm Drew Kinamori. I am the chair of the Campbell Youth Commission, and we meet the second and fourth Monday of every month.
Okay, then we got Barton.
Barton, yes, I'm on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. And I'm also a volunteer. I manage the amateur radio emergency service team in Campbell, so I work with the police department for the emergency preparedness issues.
For CERT?
We're closely associated with CERT. We do the communications.
Okay. You must know Ellen.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, and we have Tracy.
Sorry, I was on mute. I am chair of the Parks and Rec Commission, and maybe for just one more day as well. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. Okay, and then we have Adam.
I'm Adam Bookbinder. I'm part of the Planning Commission since 2019.
Can you speak up a little?
pardon me. I'm Adam Bookbinder. I'm part of the Planning Commission since 2019. We meet the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month, and we have a very exciting next 2 years coming up.
Yes. Okay. And then we have Michael.
Hi, Michael Folks. I chair the Historic Preservation Board. We meet monthly and deal with all things historic.
Okay. And then Carol.
So I'm Carol Hoffman, and I'm the chair of the Civic Improvement Commission, probably for maybe one more month as well. And we're kind of doing our rotations. Will all start soon. Civic Improvement covers, and I've been doing this for about 6 years now, covers library, museums, seniors. We work with the youth and art mostly. So
Great. And then we have Brian.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. I'm Brian Loventhal. I'm the city manager here. It's great to work with you all and see you on the call.
Great. And then Cecil's our IT guy. He has the water tower showing. Hi, Cecil.
Hello. Hi, all.
Okay, so I forgot to call the meeting to order. Meeting's called to order. So I think you all got the the commission collaborative mission statement. I'm going to go ahead and read it. The purpose of Campbell's Commission Collaborative is to provide a forum to advance sound planning and programming, to coordinate work of each commission, seeking to find common goals or themes regarding measures to implement by the council's strategic goals and priority session in the upcoming year. So I guess years and years ago, this was part of the process, was that the commissions would come to council, make a presentation of their work plan for the year. And then that way we can, as we're discussing priorities and strategic planning, have that as part of the discussion to make sure we're all incorporating things that we share in common. So this collaborative consists of one member from each commission that's under the purview of the council. Each commission acts in an advisory capacity, assisting in implementing the policy goals, program, service priorities of the council. So the goal today is each collaborative member will share what their commission's goals and objectives are, and then how they get integrated into their work plan. And then each commissioner in this collaborative is to go back to their commission and present the discussion that we had here tonight. And if there's common themes or goals that cross over the commissions, to share those with your commission, and then develop your work plan, proposed work plan, to come and bring it to our strategic planning session, which probably will be, you could provide a report of some kind, working with your staff liaison. And then that becomes part of our strategic meeting, which then we work into our budget and the work plan for staff for the year. Let's see. So now, is there any do we have anybody from the public, Cecil?
No one from the public.
Okay, so we'll close the public hearing part of this. So Liz and I are on here just basically to introduce everybody. We don't want to get in your way. We want you to have a free-flowing conversation, share your ideas with each other. Brian is going to stay on as our city manager and staff coordinator. He will then pass the information down to each one of your staff liaison. So I'm going to sign off here. Liz is going to sign off.
I have something to say, Susan.
Okay. All right. Well, let me finish. So then you guys have your roundtable discussion. The next steps we talked about, and I don't know when your next meeting, some are the first week, second week, hopefully by the end of January, early February, you're coming back to us. Okay, Liz.
So kind of just two great points. Hello, everybody. It's nice to see all of you ever so infrequently. So I just wanted to remind you that in order to discuss this at your commission, you've got to have it agendized. So be sure that you work with Brian and your staff liaison to get it on your agenda. And then develop whatever it is that you'd like to do and decide among yourselves how to coordinate all of that. But also that will council's priority strategic session is typically the end of February, beginning of March. And present, I think it's really important, particularly, frankly, particularly this year, put forward your ideas, knowing that not everything may fit into the budget, given where we are this year. So I don't want anyone to have false expectations, basically. So that's my main thought and process to you. So thank you all for doing what you and your commissioners do. And we look forward to hearing from you.
So
I'd further-
I'll Liz's point of getting it on the agenda is this does need to be voted on for your work plan.
We'll take care of the agenda part.
Okay.
I
Okay,
did have a
before we
question
leave-
you signed off.
Adam
You
has
guys
some
have
questions.
any questions before the
Adam.
two of us?
Uh,
Adam?
Yes, I just didn't want to miss getting a chance to ask. I'm not sure how other commissions work, but the planning commission doesn't, we're more reactive than anything else. We don't exactly have a work plan for the year. Most of the things that I brought up are that I brought here are things that we'd like to bring to the council's attention.
Well, that kind of counts in, because you are the one different commission. But for instance, last year or a while back, you had the parking study that you wanted. That if you're planning commission, that would become what we're calling work plans.
Okay, I have a number of bullet points.
Okay. So things like art, trails, parks, things that the youth commission, job fairs, whatever, you guys all share your ideas. I'm done speaking. I think, Liz, are we done speaking?
Yeah, I again, I'm just being cautious. Just be thoughtful. And know
Okay. So thank you all for all your volunteer work that you do. It's greatly appreciated. We'll
Jade
see
has
you
a
all
question.
soon. And Jade, you had a question?
you're muted.
Unmute.
Yes, I wanted to ask a question, not muted. Like Adam, our commission, our building board of appeals only meets to deal with issues. And by the way, building does try to collect fees to match work. So I guess that's sort of a budget item indirectly. But like he's talking about, we don't really meet on a regular basis, or I'm not sure goals and, I mean, other than being friendly, honest,
So Jay, the only thing I could think of for you, do you get enough training? That kind of thing. Do you have a good mix on your commission?
we have a good mix. We've got architects and contractors, so we've really, really got a good mix and a lot of experience.
That's the kind of thing I would think about for you.
Yeah.
Well,
then-
and also if there's something that you've seen that has come up over the last few years that you would like to share with the commissioners, or that you would like to come forward as an improvement to your commission.
Well, the one thing was that when Liz was mayor last time, that we, there was a definition issue that it was an ordinance the city had developed that was an issue. And we got to clarify, I mean, the city reworded it, and that problem's gone away, and I think things are working much better. So we
That was well done.
Yeah, we did become proactive to deal with that. Because
Okay.
yeah.
So share with
All right,
each
I can
other.
make that, sure.
And we invited everybody we could. Great. So any last questions before we sign off? No? Thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.
Happy holidays.
Oh, thank you. You too.
You too. Happy holidays.
All right, so how shall we begin?
So let me just give a little bit of more clarity if I can. I think this whole process, and I have to say, it's been confusing to all of what it is we're trying to achieve, why we're in the room, and the mayor and vice mayor kind of spoke to it, but from an administration perspective, I think there's certainly exceptions. Jay, your board's probably an exception with the Building Board of Appeals. But for a large part, we've been hearing things from commissions throughout the year of things they'd like to council consider, things they would like to do on a commission level. And the other thing that I've been hearing, I'm trying to voice to the council is this notion that I get the feeling that some of our commissions feel disconnected from our council, in that they come up with an idea and the council says, it's a great idea, but not now, or we don't have the money for it or the wherewithal to do it. And so in working with the council, we're trying to find a way to close that gap. This collaborative isn't intended to solve anything other than to improve communication, both from the commissions to the council and then amongst the commission itself. And I don't think we've ever had the commission all talking about what you're working on. So to try to create more of a culture that you don't feel like you're working on an island by yourself on whatever your particular area of interest and expertise is. We all have some understanding. In large part, what we do is somewhat on an island. Some of what you do on one commission probably doesn't affect others, but yet there is some things on some commissions that affect other commissions, and that's the other opportunity here, where there can be collaboration. Perhaps CIC and Parks and Rec have worked collaboratively before. That's an easy one, but that's not to say that other commissions, Planning Commission couldn't work with CIC or PRC or the Youth Commission or any of the commissions, Historic Preservation Board, or any of those. But we're trying to find a way to be more symptomatic. And there was a few examples this year. I don't want to call out any particular examples because the point isn't to say the commission did it right or wrong, but trying to be more strategic about how we allocate our tasks and our resources. So not only our ideas and how we collaborate, but in this pandemic with the budget, we're trying to be more efficient. So how do we spend our time? How do we spend staff time and city resources? And that's where it gets to the council priorities. When the council hears things like, you know, and I'm going to use an example, so I apologize. I said I wasn't, but for instance, the parking, Adam was a good example of this. Great idea. We need to study parking. Council's first thought was, oh my gosh, how much staff time does that take? And how does that fit into our allocations and our priorities and our work plans for staff? And I think this process will lead itself to a little bit being more proactive in that approach, where we can try to early on in the year establish our work plans, both for the council and the commissions. And then we know what we're working on and staff knows what we're working on. And in that case, Adam, you won't find staff saying, well, we're going to have to check with council to see, you know, if we can allocate staff. So it's an attempt to try to achieve, not an attempt to try to slow things down. We're trying to facilitate. So that was the concept. And I've worked in many cities, and it's not unusual that the commissions would report to the council at least annually on kind of what they've achieved and what they want to achieve for the next year. And so the concept is we'll take those things and fold it into the council's priority setting that we typically do in February. So I think what the mayor and vice mayor was hoping is a little just bit of roundtable. We're not going to solve the world's problems here tonight, but from each of you of some of those ideas that you may have had going forward. I know CIC, we've talked about Black Lives Matter and public art. And those are priorities. HPB, I know we talked about expanding the list of Mills Act properties. Parks and Rec, we've certainly had our share of park projects. So recreation programs, park improvements are all good ideas. I think council supports. I think what the concern is this is an ad hoc approach. It kind of comes out of left field at us. Council feels like we're tapped out on resources. We're tapped out. We've already given staff their priorities. So it doesn't have to be a once a year and hold your breath for the rest of the year, but it's a way to be a little bit more proactive at the beginning of the year And then when we talk about follow-up, maybe there's a follow-up meeting, maybe once, maybe twice during the year. We touch base again, kind of see how we're doing, see if there's new ideas. Try to use this forum as a way to facilitate it getting on the council's plate, allowing me to help sell it a little bit for you, and help figure out how that fits into our work plans and the staff workload that we have and budget. So maybe that confused you even more, but that was my understanding. Hopefully that's a help for you to understand. I know all of you had great ideas. I don't think that you're probably in a position to sit here tonight and say, here's all the ideas of our commission. You probably each have some ideas of those ideas and you have your own ideas. So maybe what I would propose is to go around the room. I'll get to you here in a second, Adam, and do a roundtable from each of you, kind of just hear your initial thoughts. And then we'll have some response to that. Did you have a comment, Adam?
Oh, just that we did. I have 18 bullet points that I brought in descending order of importance.
Okay, and so have you vetted those yet with your commission, or are those your bullet points? Or
the first, all of them have been mentioned at the time. I think like the last two were things I hadn't brought up yet, but at least a dozen of them have been vetted.
Okay.
They're not all even from me.
So I think tonight purpose for you all to meet each other, to start that conversation, let's do a little bit of roundtable, hear from each of you of some of your ideas. Adam, you can go through your list. That would be perfect. And then as a follow-up, we'll kind of see where we are after that. But I will work with each of your staff liaisons to make sure your January meeting contains an agenda item for you to discuss your work plans. I'll take care of that for you. And you have your meeting, you discuss your work plans, come up with it, and have someone summarize those suggestions and submit them to my office. We'll summarize those in one concise document with all of the commissions, and we'll present that to the council. What was originally asked, I apologize for the confusion. The original direction is that we were going to be presenting those orally to the council at their January 19th meeting. Based on the request of the mayor and vice mayor, it sounds like now, because of that heavy agenda, we'll be doing it in a memo format. So January 19th is not necessarily a critical date anymore, because we can send the memo at any given time to them. And they'll use that memo in February when they do their priority setting. So when they start talking about how they want to allocate budget, how they want to allocate resources, they'll have your ideas, and they'll get them early and not after the fact. So does that sound like an okay process?
Sure, let's start going around.
All right. So with that, who would like to go first here? There's no particular order. It looks like Brady Bunch on my screen. So Jay, I see you raising your hand. You're perfect. You're upper left-hand corner.
All right.
We just go according to my screen, if that's okay. So we'll go Jay first, and then Daruv, and then Barton.
All right. First, I want to make a comment. Well, even a sort of an intro comment that Tracy, I knew because my wife was on Civic before she got on, right. And Carol, I think you had just come on to Civic when about the time my wife passed away. And I used to be on planning until about 24 years ago. And because of that experience, I want to mention, I do think this is a great idea. I used to wonder, for example, why is it we're doing this hearing and then it's going to go to the city council? Why don't it just go to that? What are we doing? And I finally found out they wanted us to clean up the details so that when it got to them, it was nice and clean, either a yes or a no. And all the details were worked out instead of, well, why is it the commission didn't listen to me and all that stuff? So those kind of things are important. And attitude, like try and listen to you have to. And I learned a lot by going to the Planners Institute, where you got to listen. Of course, you guys are filmed now, or you're on camera now. I wasn't, but it was very important to develop some of those habits. So anyway, I just wanted to say that. So what my panel did is, so when you remodel, if you reach the point that 3/4 of your walls are being taken down, 3/4 of your roof is being taken down, and there's an interior, exterior, that's it, interior walls, exterior walls, and roof, you've got a new building. And if you've got a new building, you got to sprinkle it, you got to pay some fees for school and so on and so on. And we had several cases where they appealed and said, we only have 74.5%. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but we've got 74.5% here. We haven't hit the threshold of 75%. And we literally went to one of the things and we counted the number of rafters that were rebuilt to try and figure out. And, it was sort of ambiguous. So anyway, it got rewritten and now it's very clear. And if I know what the issue was. They were trying to do the percentage. So if you're taking some walls down and you're adding some new walls, and the walls being removed were always looked like a smaller percentage of the total package than if you looked at the percentage before you added anything. And that was ambiguous. It was not clarified. So that got clarified and suddenly all those kind of cases went away. And, I approached the mayor and said, we need to work on this. And we did, and we got the language changed. And there we go.
Thank you, Jay. Dhruv?
Yeah, so with the Campbell Youth Commission, we are composed, of course, a bunch of teenagers. This year we have 15 people in our term. So some of our main goals in light of recent events earlier on in 2020 of like Black Lives Matters and everything. Most of the time when we kind of create our work plan really is centered around topics or ideas that we think are really relevant. And one thing that is like really relevant for us this year is really talk about social justice, civic engagement amongst youth, and of course, having more youth involvement. So social justice is one of our biggest projects or goals for this year. It's also been one of our most popular ones in terms of connecting youth with the local government and understanding how things go on. So we work with the Campbell Library in terms of hosting events. We had a movie night about RGB, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and like a whole a movie system that she had. And we also had like another panel. Sorry, just need to clarify on that. But we did have another panel on social justice talking about immigration. We had a bunch of people talk about immigration. We had an immigration speaker event. So our teenagers got involved with that. So social justice is one of our biggest projects. We are still finding other ways to reach out to different schools. And we haven't really planned out anything else for like our second half of our term, going from January to June. And then for civic engagement, of course, our whole idea is to increase, youth activity with the local government. And one of our biggest events for that is working with the CIC with Ms. Hoffman. We worked last year with the job fair. That's been a very popular event in terms of two Campbell commissions coming together and creating opportunities for youth. Last year, Ms. Hoffman, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but we had like about 156 students show up and actually get new jobs. And this year we still have a lot of generated interest in students and other youth wanting to be involved and figure out opportunities where they can also give back to their community through either volunteer hours over the summer, which happened this year through the Campbell's summer youth program, where we had current youth commission members and other high schoolers get involved, where they not only got to interact with, toddlers and everything, but still got to understand and give back to the community. So that's another event that we're hoping to have again this year. Really does come down to how things happen in beginning of 2021. But Ms. Hoffman, we did have a meeting a good month and a half ago talking about, possible ways that we can still have this very major event going. And I guess another very unique event that we have in light of civic engagement is this event called Coffee and Politics. So a little bit behind this event, last year it was like a little more mellow sit down. We're at Pete's Coffee, where we had, Phil's. We had a bunch of local politicians kind of stop by at Phil's, where a bunch of other teenagers were there, kind of rented out a space at Phil's, and people got to talk about, we had like an interaction between teenagers and the local government. It was very beneficial because you got that direct communication. Most people are part of their own MAP, advocacy project at school or student gov. in their school, but that line of communication between direct line of communication isn't always there, or the students don't really have the resource. So by providing that resource, we got a lot of questions answered by students. They got to get things clarified on their end, and we're looking forward to having something similar again this year, trying to utilize a way or figure out a way to do it on Zoom. But those are some of our major events that are coming up and our work plans. So yeah.
You. Sorry, I kept muting myself there. Thank you for that, Dhruv. Barton, you're next.
Okay. Hi, Barton Smith again. First, a little background about what the Bicycle and Pedestrian Commission does. Basically, we are advisors to the public works people, the traffic engineers, people that design the road works and so on, most of that, on issues that pertain to bicycle and pedestrian and some other kind of things sometimes. And so the big projects that are done are not our projects, so to speak. Like, for example, there was a big repaving of Winchester Boulevard that happened this year. The part we didn't decide if that paving should be done or not. That was already decided, but then it came to us, well, what about, the bike lanes? Can we improve the bike lanes? And in fact, where maybe we could get bike lanes that weren't before. We actually spent a long time looking over all the drawings and the graphic designs and giving our advice on how the striping should be done. Where should we put sharrows? Could we have bike lanes? We talked a lot of things, tried different, the traffic engineers designed them up, and we looked them over. We go out and look at the streets. And so we did have a lot of input, and it worked out well, I think. If you've driven or bike, especially bike Winchester lately, there are some sections there that were really terrible to try to bike through, and now they're a lot better. And they're better for car drivers too, in a few specific cases, like the interchange between Winchester and San Tomas Expressway. And so our involvement in these things is a little bit episodic, from my point of view, at least. We don't necessarily see all the things coming a year ahead that we're going to be doing, but they, when it's, when our input is needed, they talk to us about it, and then we discuss it and make recommendations. One of the things that I might hope for this organization is to maybe give me a little more insight into what some of the other commissions are doing, and allow maybe some more direct collaboration. So, for example, we recently made some recommendations concerning a new bike path that's going to be put in the Campbell Park. And this has to do with trying to separate where bicyclists ride through on the sidewalk that goes right by the playground, where there's a playground there for small kids, right? And so we have done some work on that. But, let me put it this way: our communication with, let's say, the Parks and Recreation Department was very indirect, right? We only heard from the city staff what the issues were, and gave our advice on, and it, of course, might have made sense if we could have discussed with or met with some people from Park and Recreations at the same time. I mean, I assume they were talking to those people as well, but you can see what I'm saying. It's kind of removed, right? So maybe with this group, we might at least, establish some contacts, which would let us work, be more collaborative in some of these things, and come up with more good ideas possibly. So that you can, the things that we're working on or we'll be working on this year are all, the Harriet Avenue project also was one that we worked a lot on because again, the bike lanes were extended there and the crosswalks and the new flashing crosswalk thing. And of course, we're still getting a lot of feedback, especially those speed bumps on Harriet Avenue. But you know, all the things that are in the Public Works Project website of the city of the city Public Works Department, you can see what things we might be involved in. There are a few projects like the Santa Mas Aquino trail that's been proposed, the trail that's going to go sort of behind Westmont and the school there, Forest Hill School,
Forest
along
Hill.
that path. Forest Hill, yeah. You know, we have had some discussions about that in our committee, and but I guess no, you know, there's lots of issues that stand between that actually being turned into a trail or not. That's not really. I mean, you know, I don't see that as in our purview. We give our advice about if they are going to do this, you know, what things might be good to do, and how valuable would it be to, you know, pedestrians to have that route. But there's other big organizations involved with trying to make that happen. So, you know, I'm looking forward to, like I say, maybe learning who I could talk to in some of these other groups, or, you know, who else in the city we could go to maybe work together on some things.
Yeah, thank you, Barton. That's a great lead, and that is a big part of what we're trying to do is just build that collaboration. And you mentioned several projects, and I could think of a few going forward where the BPAC could certainly be involved. And we just mentioned with Adam for Planning Commission, he'll get to this, you know, the idea of looking at our parking standards in certain districts or with certain uses, and understanding the bicycle and pedestrian circulation as a piece of that's important too. So I think there can be an improved collaboration, and if we didn't share with you each other's contacts, we will do that as a follow-up to that. Make sure that you have each other's contacts. So thank you for that. All right, we're going to just keep in order that I see you on my screen, not in order of priority here. So don't take this as any comment that you're important or less important. But I have Tracy, then Adam, then Michael, and then Carol.
Okay, so actually, Barton, you actually brought up some very good points. I am the chair of the Parks and Rec Commission. We oversee park issues, park capital improvement projects, and a couple of the items that you mentioned about the Campbell Park and the Santa Mas Aquino Trail that they're evaluating. We've been a big part of all of those. But now that you mentioned, you know, like the Campbell Park, we looked at those plans knowing that they were detouring the bike trail, and you know, obviously it probably would have made sense for you to been in attendance at our meeting while we were having those conversations. So definitely something for Parks and Rec to keep in mind for all the future park projects when there's bike trails, that it probably would be more efficient if you were part of those discussions early on instead of after the fact.
Yeah.
The other thing Parks and Rec oversees is tree issues, as far as if somebody's trying to, you know, remove a tree on their, what they think their property is, or it's in between the Campbell's property and the owner's property. Sometimes the owners will want a tree removed, and our commission gets involved with kind of evaluating the situation and seeing whether it makes sense or not to allow that tree removal. We also are involved with a lot of the park recreation and community service items, such as special events. A lot of the fun runs and, Oktoberfest, all of that. We're, involved with those activities as well. And obviously open space is very, very important to us as Parks and Rec. Something that we're always trying to protect in Campbell. There's all, Adam, I'm sure, is going to have a huge update on all the planning that is in progress in Campbell, with not a lot of added open space in a lot of those developments, which is something that being on Parks and Rec, we are hopeful that, future developments have a piece that go to open space in the future. As Campbell parks are very populated, highly populated, and as all the new developments appear everywhere, open space is such a huge part of it with all the young families around. And more important now with COVID and, people wanting to be outside, it's, we're all about open space. A couple of the major projects that we've been overseeing are, as most of you probably know, the JD Morgan Park. We're actually adding an all-inclusive playground in that park, and that project will probably start being developed pretty soon here. It needs to be completed by November of 2021. We applied for a grant and received a $1 million grant that the city also has to match 50%. So it's about a $2 million budget for that all-inclusive playground. And the Parks and Rec Commission also had a subcommittee that I was on, and we, worked through all the details of the playground equipment and, the layout of that new park. Obviously, it went from us to a lot of the other commissions, as well as City Council for final approval. But that's been a lengthy process over the course of the last, I would say, year and a half or so. And then I know Bart mentioned the Santa Moschino Park Trail. That's another thing that's been in discussion for a while. And then they're doing a major overhaul on the Campbell Park, adding a new bathroom. And one of the things that has come up in a lot of the park developments and project improvements is how can we include public art in some of those new projects. And I feel like Parks and Rec and CIC actually could do a much better job of collaborating in that effort to add more public art in all of those new developments. Something I think that it gets talked about but kind of pushed aside because it's not necessarily part of the initial budget, but something that I think would be nice to push a little bit is more public art in these places. So those are the major items that I have, and obviously we could probably work with planning and youth and all of the other commissions as well, but mostly see the bike and CIC as like near-term items that we sure could collaborate with you guys on.
Excellent. Thank you, Tracy. We're going to move to Adam, then to Michael, and then to Carol.
Okay, I have a lot here, so I'm going to try to get through it. I may go a little quickly. Just for a little context, we at the Planning Commission make land use decisions. Generally, that's a particular project is brought before us. Somebody wants to build a house, somebody wants to remove a tree, somebody wants to legalize or legitimize an ADU, something like that. The big broader things coming up are currently we're working on changing our subjective standards to objective standards, which we need to do post haste to be in accordance with state law. The general plan update is coming up this coming year. The last one is from 2000, I believe. So this started in, I want to say 2016. This is the 5th year of trying to update our general plan, and I feel optimistic that it's going to happen. The following year, the 6th RHNA cycle is starting, so we need to develop our housing element, which is a very contentious process, and it will be a lot more rigorous and demanding than it has been in previous years. So a couple things that I wanted to mention. First, I just want to check with Brian. You mentioned that you would send everybody's contact information around. Are there any Brown Act implications of mailing each other or contacting each other?
So, this committee, there is a little bit, but if what you're doing is contacting each other about a process or informing, that's not an issue. This committee doesn't have authority to represent your individual committee or a vote. However, you do want to be careful to not communicate with more than a majority of this commission. It is a Brown Act committee. I'll count the number of people here, but you cannot communicate with the majority, which would be 50% plus one. So this committee is pretty big. So Adam, to answer your question, it wouldn't be any problem for you to contact a particular liaison that's on this commission. But if you start contacting 4 or 5 of them and talking about a recommendation that you hope this commission will support, that would be an issue.
Okay. All right. So bring things to an individual commission's attention. That's fine.
Yep.
Okay. Something that I wanted to bring to BPAC's attention is that San Jose's Better Bike Plan 2025 is a really ambitious project, and part of it goes through Campbell. It was mentioned in the July 16th minutes, but there weren't any updates in November 19th. So I know that involves a bit of land use, and I'm curious as to how that's going to, do you have any updates on that?
I'm sorry?
I was asking, sorry, bad names, Barton, if you had any updates on the Better Bike Plan.
No, I don't have any updates. I know that our city staff have been in communication with the San Jose staff on this, as also they were, and the Winchester project was a part of that, and they work closely, and likewise, there's now part of that plan has to do with well, I won't take time now. There's a place where one of the streets currently is that crosses over to San Jose on the west side is under discussion between the two staffs to harmonize the plans for bicycle and pedestrian. But we have not been. We haven't been. Our commission hasn't been talking to the San Jose Commission. We do have a person. Our chairperson Carmen is on the county, on the VTA commission. So that's how we coordinate countywide.
Okay, and you may also be interested in a lot of cities allow the substitution of some amount of bicycle parking for some amount of car parking. It's a lot more space efficient. We have nothing ongoing about that, but we've mentioned it. You may be interested in when we try and go over our parking standards. For the CIC or Youth Commission, around the middle of the year when the protests started, I had suggested to the commission to investigate a possible history of redlining or racial covenants in the city. And the response was that this was a great idea, but outside of our mandate. But given that those could possibly, in a lot of places, that history, even if it's not explicitly there, still influences the shape of the city and how land use decisions are made, you folks might be interested in that. So the main thing that the Planning Commission asked me to do here is to, if we identify an issue, and I have some examples I'll be going over, how do we bring it to the council's attention? And what we've requested, both Paul Kermoyan, our staff contact, and Chair Cray of the Planning Commission have requested to have a joint City Council and Planning Commission meeting at least once a year. We've requested it before. A lot of cities do this. I believe, Brian, we've requested it of you to forward that to the City Council. I don't know how far that's gone.
Yeah, so I think all of these things, we're going to push the reset button on all of these things and start again in January. So requests like that, we're going to bring to the council. We're going to make really clear that communication of what the ask is, and then we're going to prioritize that. So as far as a joint meeting, we would include that with our ask of the council. And
okay.
Fresh. Here's our list. This is really clear what we're asking to do. and not be equivocal about it.
All right. Yeah, the reason why this is such a thing for us is that our authority is very circumscribed. So when we see things, we can only comment on the particular issue. So we've noticed the following things. So from the commission, we have requests to, like, how can we move the general plan forward more quickly? We also, we've suffered from a lack of vision on the Dell area plan. We had a proposed area plan that never quite happened. So when a project proposal came through, the planning commission had their ideas, the city had their, the council had their ideas, and it was a very contentious mess. The developer didn't know what was expected of them, and we really could use an area plan there. We have a request to get more affordable housing. For example, our in lieu fees are not adjusted for inflation, and we're set in around 2006. So for example, the project was PLN 2019-148. The developer could have made more on-site affordable units, but the choice for them was between paying $100,000 in lieu fees or foregoing over $1.5 million in market value, which is an absolutely, like, no comparison. They're absolutely not going to build more affordable units. They're just going to contribute an amount to the in lieu program, which in no way will produce the same amount of affordable housing. Additionally, there's a consensus that we need an ADU amnesty. If you consider PLN 2019-176, which was around June of this year, there was a situation where somebody had an illegal ADU, as a lot of people do. Somebody reported it, and it was a tremendously complicated and difficult process because it was, I believe, a few feet too close to the fence line. It had been there for several decades. There is an amnesty for ones that are not planning compliant. In certain, you can ones that are not building code compliant, you can bring them into compliance. There's no such amnesty for planning non-compliance. There's no real moral hazard here. The real hazard is that people will report their neighbors because this is entirely a complaint-based process. There's a lot of potential for bad here. There's the complaint from several commissioners, including myself, that parking is a mess. There are places which seem underparked but are not problematic. So consider PLN 2020-82, August of this year. At 1760 South Bascom, there have been no history of parking concerns at one parking space for 221 square feet when the code says 1 per 200. On PLN 2020-96 in November, we switched a daycare to a part-time elementary school with the same number of children. It led to a change in the parking requirements, just because one is based on the number of classrooms and one is based on the number of children. Also, we noted on the last week, PLN 2020-106, there's a divergence between the city's standards and the ITE standards for parking. Part of this is explicitly noted by staff, and I asked them, and staff repeated this. This is explicitly done by the city council at some point in the past to encourage developers to negotiate with the city. This does have the net effect of us being overparked and to discourage development, which may have been the idea then, but given that it doesn't actually say this anywhere in the parking code, I don't know if we still want to do this, and I'm certain that HCD would not look kindly on this when we do our housing element. That's the first 6 of them. I will stop at a dozen, and please cut me off if you need me to. Consider 1049 Dell Avenue, the Cambrian Park annexation in 2013, PLN 2020-70, this August. There are no existing approvals there, so what should have been a by right facade improvement involved 5 to 6 months of delay and the owner paying rent while they couldn't actually use the place. I believe this will be part of the general plan update, but this is a crucial problem, like, now. Specifically, again, last week, PLN 2020-106, townhomes require custom planned development zoning, and this is a general problem where our zoning map doesn't match our general plan. If you comply with the zoning regulations, you don't comply with the general plan there. We also don't seem to really have standards for when sharrows are okay and when bike lanes are needed to try and make the city bike friendly. Might go well with the general plan update. I think BPAC might be interested in this. For example, we could have streets that are too small to justify bike lanes. They should be designed via traffic calming to go at bike speeds. Same for any street with sharrows. We could possibly have a substitution to require a certain proportion of parking spaces with bikes at some ratio, maybe conditioned on the presence of bike infrastructure, a large bike shed, a high bike score. 1055 Florence Way, PLN 2019-206, this previous September. ITE would require 5 to 7 stalls, and the city required 18, which was really implausible for the site. So a lot of parking modifications come before the Planning Commission because of this. And so we spend a lot of time on this. Some of the commissioners had a lot of thoughts about FAR standards, which are kind of a lot broader than that. For example, higher FAR for that's floor area ratio, a measure of how much building mass you can put on a given sized lot. To have, for example, a higher floor area ratio for mixed use developments, in a general sense of whether we prefer to make things by right or discretionary. And that became sort of a broader question that we're looking for direction from the council on. We had considered some kind of incentive or streamlining for certain uses that are first in the area, like an urgent care clinic or a neighborhood grocery where there is none. We also don't have provisions for removing or replacing trees which don't have room to grow. In one case, the city's codes pretty much required replacing a retaining wall every 5 years, and it seemed like an undue burden. This is at 1698 Hyde Drive. We asked for a second tree in Luffy. I don't have the project number written down here. Also, Parks and Rec might be interested in this. We were talking about how really hard it is, especially in multifamily developments, to have enough open space because you have a lot of people in there. So we were talking about, should roof decks count as private open space? And to what extent can you use nearby parks to count as your open space? If you're okay with it, I have a couple more.
Let's in the interest of time, Adam, let's get.
Yeah, I've gone over time. I do apologize for that.
No, it's all right. It's all good. It's good to hear what your guys are passionate on. You certainly have some good ideas. So let's move to, I see Michael turned off his video. Michael would have been next if you're there, Michael. Let's go to Carol. We'll loop back to Michael. He may be offline here for a second. Carol?
So our challenge this year, besides COVID, was we have a commission of 7 and we lost 4 and had 4 new replacements. So it took until summer to get ourselves nearly full. So we started working on the work plan actually then. So we have a pretty solid draft of our work plan. I'll go through a few of the items and some of them you guys have already touched upon. So we have a couple things that we do ongoing and some things that we dropped. So our focus, what we tried to do, we kind of told each other we're going to do as much on our own as we can and limit the use of staff and city dollars. So if there's things we can do, art boxes, for example, that were mostly funded by the public opposed to being funded by the city. So we had beautification grants. Those were pulled obviously because of the budget. We have social service subgrants, which support some of the organizations in the city that have at risk from aging, food, all of those kind of things. We have that and we have neighborhood grants. So those are the things that are funded by the city. We have them in our work plan. Whether or not we use them, whether or not they're funded, we'll find out, I think, Brian, in January, and we'll modify the work plan accordingly. But we, beautification grants we took out, but the others we left in. One of the newest things that we have is we've been talking about public art, and now we're looking into how to do that public art with contributions from people in the city, opposed to having to have or having matching something to that effect. So that, Tracy, I know that we talked about it, and finding locations for these pop-up arts, kind of pop-up art, and taking a different look at it. We want to do a joint effort with you. Because you've got parks, great place to put art, right? So, seeing if that's an option, and that's something that the city would have to be okay with. So something really good to come to the city council. So I want to bring that one up, but we're looking at it that way. And the subject matter would rotate. So that way it's not necessarily a social issues, but it may be kids one month and something different the next month. So looking at it that way. So just touch upon that briefly. And Drew already mentioned that we talked about the job fair. We also talked about putting it on hold or revising it to be a bit different than it was in the past. So, I'm all for coordinating. What we did with the Youth Commission is that I went to his meeting, then he came to mine, so that we could talk to each other. We could have a dialogue with the commissions. And I'm open to that. I don't think there's any issue with that as far as I know, as long as it's on the agenda. So something to think about, Tracy. Somehow we can, I can go to yours, you can go to mine and see
Yep.
how we can, put it on the agenda and actually work through the work plan and make
Definitely.
action on it.
Yep.
So that's what we did this year. We kind of only got started by mid-year anyway. Let's see, that covers that. We have a youth photo contest that we put on hold this year. Again, that's self-contained. We do most of that work on our own. And if we'll see, we'll see how it works with COVID. We have street names as our purview. So if that fits in with, as the planning commission are doing things, and we have a list of street names that we've given to the city, but we can always, when we need to update that, we're usually asked to do that. But if we need to do that in conjunction with somebody else, we can do that as well. And then we have our Campbell Cares, which used to be focused on suicide prevention, but we have some new commissioners. We want to look at possibly supporting homeless with kind of kits for them to use, clean up and things like that, and find a way to self-fund that as well. And senior mental health, maybe something with the Youth Commission, helping the seniors not to be so lonely, finding ways for them to get online and help them with that. And then another one with the Youth Commission. We haven't talked about it because we just came up with these ideas 2 weeks ago, I guess. Teen substance abuse and really the mental health that's going on right now, especially during COVID. So that's our Campbell Cares portion. And I think that covers, I don't think I'm missing anything. So our work plan is pretty much together, and we can adjust it as need be, but it's set up in such a way that it can be, it's not fully detailed so that there's some open discussion on it. The social service subgrants and the neighborhood grants, they are in the budget currently today, but they need to be spent by end of June if they stay in the budget. So we're working to accelerate that because we've had to revise how we do it so it's simpler for the public. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or if I missed anything obvious.
Question. Since you do work with homelessness, is there anything in our planning rules that's blocking shelter space or making homelessness more difficult?
So Adam, it's the first time we brought it up because we're not sure how we can work with the homeless. And I thought, and Brian, you can correct me, I thought that there was one of the council was working with a kind of a homeless, group of, I think something was going on.
That's correct.
I would like to see how the Civic Improvement Commission can, tag on to some of that.
There is a housing collaborative task force on the county level that I think Council Member Bybee has been participating on, but at the appropriate time, we'll connect you
Okay.
to those resources.
Yeah, so and that's a good question, Adam, because I forget where it was I heard, but possibly where could we put a shelter if the city of Campbell chooses to do that, but it would probably be run by the county anyway. But we weren't getting to the housing portion of that. We were kind of doing low-hanging fruit of what we could do now to help those right on the ground. We were kind of looking at it that way, but doing it in stages and thinking about how we could look at it and collaborate. I'm all in for that.
All right, thank you, Carol. All good stuff to CIC. It makes you feel good, all the things you guys are working on and everyone's working on. But so let's, Michael, we were going to jump to you. We skipped over.
Sorry, I was moving. I realized my battery was down to like 2%, so I figured I better plug in before.
Isn't that what happens? Soon as you take 2 minutes, we're moving on. So we went to Carol. Now we'll go back to you.
Sure. So the Historic Preservation Board, as you know, we care about kind of the historic assets and attributes of the city. That includes trees, that includes obviously buildings. And I think our board has really been trying hard to make, we have kind of a regulatory function and we have kind of a community building and outreach function. And the outreach stuff we've done very well for many years, well before I got on the board. But I think where we work closely with the Planning Commission is, frankly, people some people have preferred not to have historic resources in town because they'd much rather go through the planning commission review, which they have to do anyway, rather than also take a detour through historic preservation because they look at it as kind of a burden. They'd rather not have a historic asset. And that's something I think we've really taken to heart and are working really hard to encourage preservation, encourage the excitement of all the great assets we have in this town, right? So, you know, Barton, you were talking about Harriet Avenue. So where I'm sitting, so Miss Harriet was the second owner of this house, right? So that's why the street's named Harriet Avenue. So, you know, there's a whole lot of history around us that we just don't, that we kind of take for granted. The biggest thing that the city has is, which is a great asset, is the Mills Act. And so we've really taken this year to really look at how we're using the Mills Act, how it's functioning, how we can make it better, how we can make it more accountable, because frankly, we've uncovered a lot of things where records, a homeowner has to file records every year. They go to the county doesn't share them with the city, and they just go off into Neverland and nobody ever checks on them. So a lot of this is really trying to come up with a new system, a much more, I think, exciting system to make the Mills Act much more relevant to the city, to show how the city's really making sure these contracts, which can be many, many, many year contracts, are being up, you know, the city has skin in the game and so does the homeowner, but also perhaps, and we're still in discussion about this, making them more, looking at all sorts of cities across California and trying to find the best examples of how they use these contracts to really help homeowners, you know, maintain these old historic homes, to do it in a way that really benefits the city, benefits the residents. One thing which probably none of you have seen, but we have an app now that you can download, and it has walking tours of the city. And it was, you know, it's a simple project. We had fortunately, an intern the city had that helped us with it. But it is something where now, if you're either downtown looking at the commercial buildings, or if you're, you know, in the Alice area neighborhood, you can walk through and really have some dynamic history kind of come to life. And so I think it's the combination of trying to turn, you know, kind of sticks into carrots, really to try to create incentives for people who want to preserve our history, and then making sure that we're sharing it with the community and making sure that people really realize what a, you know, vibrant community we have. Frankly, you know, I work at Apple in Cupertino, and I'm on their historic society, and frankly, they have none of the history that we have in Campbell. So we really do have a lot here to be thankful for, and really just trying to, again, make it something that is going to be more visible, more tangible, and hopefully create some incentives so that, you know, people who have historic homes actually want to have them registered, want to go the extra mile to keep them up. Brian, you're on mute.
Muted there. Thank you, Michael. No, you're right. Sometimes historic preservation is kind of the ugly stepchild. People want it, but not for their own house.
Right.
It's great when everyone else does it, but don't tell me what to do. So thank you for that. That it's meaningful. You know, as I hear you all talk, even as I sit here as your city manager, I got a little bit different flair for each of the commissions and what your passions are than we get through in minutes and memos to the council. So I think it's been good to do a little bit of roundtable. We've had a chance to kind of go around the room. Is there anything more that we want to talk about tonight? Tonight was just kind of the tip of the iceberg, get each other a feel for what the other commissions are doing, kind of talk about process. And I think we've done that. Is there any questions or additional comments the group wants to make at this point?
I have a question for Michael, just a quick one.
Okay, we'll do Carol first, and then Jay had a question next.
Oh, sorry, Jay. Michael, you said, is there an app that you can?
Yeah. So it's if you go to the App Store, either on Google or Apple, and you just look for City of Campbell, you'll see it'll come up, and it's through the city, but it's basically a separate app for historic preservation. Yeah, and it only has, I think, 3 tours right now, but the idea is that it's very simple code, and the idea is you can really add as because the city has all this content, right? The historic museum has all sorts of things, and it's really just getting, frankly, interns or a way to digitize it all and make it into a format that's actually more kind of dynamic.
Well, yeah, and the reason I asked is because I didn't mention this, but one of the things that the Civic Improvement is connected to is the museum, and they've set up a, a tour, a virtual tour through the Ainsley House. And I thought, shoot, these should like all be in one spot where we can advertise, and get people really excited about Campbell. And anyway, food for thought.
Good points,
I
Carol.
was thinking they all connect. So
Yeah, another good collaboration there. Jay?
Yeah, I wanted to make a couple comments. They're sort of related to some of the issues that Adam brought up. And just for your, I don't know if you guys know, I was on the Planning Commission about 12 years. And one of the things I wanted to point out that our commissions are supposed to do is to help formulate and write the general plan and ordinances. And that's one of the things that the commission does, the council does reach down to us to help with. And the second thing is, like in one of the issues you brought up, Adam, a study session might be considered, and they're great because number one, you can meet with the city. You can't make any decisions, but staff can help, and there can be technical presentations and discussion. And it's a very good time to find out where the council really wants to go, because it's ultimately up to them. And I just want to point that out that, I was part of a couple good ones. Then I learned that's how it happens. So, and that experience is what helped me when we had the problem on the Building Board of Appeals. I knew I had to go and get that language rewritten, because one of the rules that the Building Board of Appeals has to follow is we cannot rewrite any rule. We can't override a rule. We have to live with them, and we just have to decide if the building official made a good decision given what the codes and ordinances are. So I don't know if that's helpful, but
it was, and I do definitely look forward to doing plenty of study sessions and having a lot of conversations about the general plan. Were you on the planning commission at the time that the last general plan was adopted?
probably not. I haven't been on in 24 years.
Would have been 2000. I don't know when the last general plan before
I
that was
think
adopted.
If you look back to when Liz got on, I think she more or less got my seat. So I think she was on for 17 years before she got into council. So I think it's been 24 years since I was on, because
Okay,
I know I was just about to turn 50 when I got off.
that does
And I
help.
don't know if you know some of the people like Mike Katowski. I actually got his seat on the planning commission. I mean, he was on the commission, he got voted up to council, and I got his seat. I mean, I just happened to find that out. I don't think I knew it the day I got appointed, but it eventually found out. All right, that was enough of my comment.
I had a question. Did anybody else?
Adam, go ahead.
Mr. Canterbury, I'm sorry I did not get how to pronounce your first name.
It's Drew. It's just
Drew,
like
okay.
Drew with a V at the end.
Cool. Would the Youth Commission be interested in, like, I have a couple of resources that I've dug up and a few contacts at the library about trying to discover what the history, if any, of segregation under law is under California. In Campbell.
I think we'd be more than interested. Some of the people, so we have our whole civic engagement and social justice. They're two different subcommittees, and those people and like the teens involved in that also are really interested in more of Campbell history as well. So I feel like that'd be something we could certainly look forward to working on in the future. So I mean, hopefully we can get in contact, and I can reach out to those subcommittees and my staff list, and we can figure something out. I think
Sure, I could just show up at a Youth Commission meeting for public comment or whatnot, if that would be the best way to do that. And I could also
Yeah,
send
sure.
in
I mean,
my notes to
actually,
go
we
with.
had one today at 7, but we do have our next one in January. So I can let you know the date, and we can figure something out.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
All right. And I did want to thank you, Drew, for attending this. I know you had a conflicting youth commission meeting, and you chose wisely this group. No, I'm kidding. The youth commission is great too, but thank you for attending this. And I'm sure the youth commission's in good hands.
Oh, certainly could not have missed this. I remember last year when it came, and it was a really great experience on my part when I was the vice chair. So I was really looking forward to today and grateful to be able to stay for the full duration.
Well, thank you. Other closing comments of the group?
Hey, Michael, I just went on to the apps to try and download that historic app. I only see a City of Campbell travel. It doesn't come up.
Yeah, let me grab hold on.
I was able to-
I left my phone in the other room, but let me.
Okay, so maybe if you could send it out to even
I'll send it out.
Brian,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
could
I'll send it out.
distribute, that would
Yep.
be great. It doesn't pop up for me in the search for the Apple apps, just FYI.
Just want to clarify, this is the one that kind of talks about like the whole activity guide, agenda center, alert center. Is that the app, Michael?
No, so this is specific for the historic preservation in Campbell. So it
Okay.
really is, it's not the city.
Yeah, separate.
It's a separate app. When I downloaded it, which is right when it came out, it just popped right back up, but that was like a year and a half ago. So it may now be deprecated.
okay.
At
Thank
Apple,
you.
we do strange things with our app store. So I'll see if we can get it pushed back up to the top.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
All right, so as a follow-up, we'll send out a contact list for this group. Make sure you all have each other's contacts. I think that would be a real easy thing for us to do, and we'll follow up on the historic app. And if any of you have any follow-up questions for me, my office is always open. You can call me here, email me as well. So we're glad to help. I appreciate all your time. Your work is valuable. You don't get paid for what you do, and you really should. You guys all earn it, and the community appreciates your effort. So thank you.
Missed the meal this year, though.
Well, that's the one thing you do get. We'll owe it to you. You get two steaks next year.
That's always a fun night.
It is. That's one of the things we really recognize that we miss is those little recognitions. It's a time to get together, and we've missed those throughout this whole year. So
That was the one time of year that we would get a little bit of an update on what the various commissions were doing, before this collaborative meeting. So,
yeah.
yep.
Correct. And here are the goals of the city.
Yeah, exactly.
And I appreciated the cheese board.
Oh yeah, this board is awesome.
All right, guys. Any other closing comments before we adjourn?
Nope,
Thank you, everybody.
This
for
is
their
great.
time.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good
Okay,
evening.
bye,
All right.
everybody.
Everyone.
And
Have a
happy
good night.
holidays.
Happy
You too.
holidays.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Bye.